Hi guys, whether you're an investor or a day trader, we have another amazing video for you where we will show you the exact targets and levels we're looking at. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and smash the like button as your support motivates us to make more videos just like this.
So into the charts we go. We basically have a flat day on Bitcoin. Amazing how Bitcoin was so quiet from basically, I would say, mid-September into early November. We then got this big flush, obviously, on the FTX news. And then Bitcoin has gone back to being unbelievably quiet. Now, again, you could look at that in two sides, right? You could have the side that says, at least we're not collapsing with contagion in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrencies due to the FTX fiasco. Or you could look at it and say, wait a minute, we're consolidating in a bearish pattern. I'm a chart guy. So again, even without that contagion aspect where you're seeing the continued collapse of other exchanges or other things, the fact that you're making this flag pattern is definitely worrisome in terms of the price action that is coming in Bitcoin. And again, just to rehash, here's your flagpole, connect the lows, connect the highs. That is a flag, right? I mean, look at it. It's just an upside down flag. Here's your pole. There's your flag. So again, if we know anything, that the probabilities dictate that this chart breaks lower. Again, is there a chance that the probabilities don't hold true? Yeah, remember, probabilities are just that. It says 70, 80% chance we break lower. That still leaves a 20 to 30% chance that it could retrace and head back up. Again, we follow probabilities. I look at probabilities and go with that because that's what's worked throughout the course of my career to make me lots of money. But again, there's always a small chance it does the opposite. All right, if we break lower, you guys know my targets at this point. We have the 12 to 13,000 level right down here. And then ultimately, we should see that bottom out in basically in 5 to 6 months. I have it penciled in for, and that would be at around 9,000, give or take, somewhere right in that vicinity. The trend line down here notes that. We've also gone over multiple times the similarities between FTX as well as Lehman Brothers, the collapse. Big money got hurt. Out of the bank collapses of '08 came Dodd-Frank, which was legislation to make it harder for banks to do shady things. Out of this, I fully expect the U.S. government and the SEC to come out with regulatory changes that will make it very hard and strict on these exchanges so they can't screw around and cost investors lots of money. So again, do I think that's a positive? Yeah, I do. Is there a chance that it's overregulated? Of course. I mean, this is our government we're talking about. Of course, there's a chance of that. But I still think if you had the option between a little overregulation or zero regulation, you got to, at this point, go with some regulation. Unless you like putting your money on an exchange and not knowing if it's going to be there tomorrow. I don't like that. I think that's horrible. I think as an investor, when you're in the stock market and you have your money with a brokerage in the stock market, you never have to ever worry about that. They're FDIC insured, there's regulatory, there's audits, there's all this stuff, and that makes it, basically an afterthought of, is my money going to be in my brokerage tomorrow? It always will be. With exchanges, it's not that case. We've seen it with Voyager, Celsius, FTX. I mean, all of these, and there will be more, right? I mean, the bottom line is there's contagion here. There's plenty of these other smaller exchanges that had investments in FTX, and that is going to be problematic. Remember, there's going to be a lot of forced selling. A lot of these other exchanges or other entities in the crypto world had exposure to FTX, and they're going to go bust. And what they're going to find is that they have some, Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have some Ethereum. They have some Solana. They have some Avalanche. They have some Ripple, whatever it may be. And they're going to be forced to sell that on the open market at these levels, which will then add to selling pressure. The other negative for Bitcoin in the near term is that, again, you have a scenario where, there's really no big money that is going to come in here, all right? And again, that was made clear. FTX kind of screwed that up. You could say Terra Luna, but in all fairness, Terra Luna, you didn't have the same big entities. I mean, you didn't have a Tom Brady. You didn't have, there's these bigger players, including, people like Kevin O'Leary, who's a big investor, and other, there was big hedge funds and big management funds that had investments in FTX. And when you're a big player, a VC, or someone who does these big investments, or a hedge fund, you can't, in good sense, make those investments until there's clarity with transparency. And again, that means that there's going to be a lack of buyers in crypto until we get some sort of clarity and regulation out there. So again, it's really a kind of a crappy scenario, but the one thing I would say is it's very similar, like I talked about with Lehman Brothers. You could even, and I've likened this in the past, in 2021 when we were at all-time highs, I said, guys, this is exactly like the dot-com bubble in 2000. All right, you had ridiculous, and let me just share some of the similarities as we look at the Bitcoin price action here, which is pretty non-existent, right? Bitcoin's up eight bucks on the day, 0.05%. But basically, you had a couple things. Number one, in 99, 2000, and this was the beginning of my trading career. Dang, it's been over 20 years, kind of crazy. But basically, you had penny stocks that were 1 penny or half a penny or 2 cents. One day they would be there, the next day they'd be 5 cents, then they'd be 15, then they'd be $1, then they'd be $5. And you had the same sort of insanity. And a lot of these companies were literally joke companies. They were started in their parents' basement. They were run out of their parents' basement. All they had in the name was .com, and they just got these crazy amounts of money to rush into them. Very similar to things that we saw in the crypto market. Right? Then you had scenarios where at the height of the dot-coms, if you put the market caps of all the dot-coms together, $2.9 trillion in total dot-com action at the height of the bubble. In 2021, the height of the crypto market, $3 trillion, right at the same point. All right, then you look at things like the Super Bowl. In 2000-ish, 2001, I think it was 2000, the Super Bowl was called the dot-com Super Bowl because so many dot-coms bought commercials. All right. In 2022, just at the beginning of this year, when we were just coming off all-time highs, it literally, if you watched that, you saw multiple crypto commercials there as well. So it's eerie. And this is again, what I always try to get through to you guys is how investing doesn't change. Human nature doesn't change, and that is why things repeat. This is why you have bubbles. I mean, for one of the big things, and if I could give you guys homework, I would do this. Go back and look up the tulip craze, the tulip mania, and you'll see that I think it was in the 1500s, there was this insane bubble in tulips, and literally you could buy a house for a tulip. I mean, the prices went up so crazy, speculation went insane, and it was exactly the same thing. And obviously, that bubble collapsed as well. All right, so again, you go back in history, and I'm sure you could go back to ancient Egypt or Rome, or I mean, there's always these kind of examples of hysteria, of greed and fear. And what's great about it for us, and I'm able to talk about this because honestly, there's not a lot going on in the crypto markets today, but in general, you can find the same things happening over and over and over again. And it allows us to learn. For those of us that are students of history, it allows us to learn from history to help avoid, future destruction. So that's the key. Is unfortunately, most investors don't do that, right? And that's why they get caught up in these same things. And if they did learn from it, then it wouldn't happen. And ultimately, we wouldn't get the same opportunities that we are getting in this market, not only knowing the top was near in October, November of 2021, but also as we get to the lows and we start to see the panic, the fear, all that stuff, we can start rotating and starting to get ready to be more accumulators of Bitcoin, Ethereum as a hodling position. Okay, so that's where we are right there. Let's quickly go over to Ethereum here. Ethereum is down ticking a little bit today. Again, you can make a case this is a micro bullish pattern, but upside's capped right here. Unless if we get above and establish ourselves, that would actually be very bullish for Ethereum. But right now, I wouldn't anticipate that. If we take out this low, we're probably headed back towards double bottom around $900 on Ethereum. Once we get below 900, I will start looking at a potential hodl position in Ethereum. All right, now remember, Ethereum not that long ago, I mean, get this, guys. If you go back to March of 2020, Ethereum was trading at like sub $100. So remember, I mean, even here, you're up 12 times what Ethereum was just a couple years ago, basically 2.5 years ago. And so again, keep that in perspective. Everyone gets wrapped up in that Ethereum was trading near $5,000. Everyone's kind of infatuated with the idea that it's going to come back and go back to that level. But again, you have to be very careful and understand that it can easily go back to those levels as well. That's why I'm waiting for these lower levels to start accumulating, and I'll dollar cost average slowly in. So let's continue looking at a couple other cryptos here. If we take a look here at Let's take a look at, let's go with Cardano. We'll start with Cardano today. Cardano continues to be down in the doldrums here, just off of major support. Again, nothing new here in the chart. We're just kind of down just a little bit from where we were yesterday, but kind of in the same range of where we've been for the last 4 or 5 trading days. Obviously, this trend line is the big support. I'm still waiting for that 30-cent level or maybe a pierce of 30 cents to buy a little bit more and add and dollar cost average my position. Again, we have a good dollar cost average at around 40, just over 40 cents. But I think, again, ultimately, we will see Cardano go lower with the rest of the crypto market. It'll give us an opportunity to accumulate a little bit more there. Okay? Next up, let's take a look at Polkadot. Polkadot basically pausing today. A lot of sideways chop now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically 6 sideways consolidation days. Resistance remains right up here. Support is here, and then double bottom here with a trend line that's down sloping, and that'll give us a basis for seeing support there. All right, if I zoom out on the chart, if we do break a lot lower, where could we go? Well, you're going to have a lot of support around $4.50. I think we talked about that before, and that really takes us all the way back to 2020. I could bring up a chart that goes a little further back, but nonetheless, I think, again, Polkadot, by the way, is kind of interesting to me in terms of holding because, again, if it is a commodity versus a current security, it does bring with it a little bit more safety versus what are the rules that are going to be put out for altcoins that are securities. So again, we'll have to watch and see, but I do think that is fascinating and kind of worth keeping an eye on. Next up, let's take a look at Solana. Solana is down ticking just a little bit today, trading down around $13.60. Again, still lots of support down here, but again, the more we hammer on it, could it break lower? Yeah, it certainly could. All right, so again, we've talked about this before. Solana is in a position where the upside reward is pretty substantial if we get through this kind of craziness of charts and what's going on right now. Again, it could rally easily back to 28 bucks if we get a bull run or a bounce in the Bitcoin and the crypto markets. If it does head a little bit lower, you're probably talking about, right now you're still at a ton of support, but the next level down, and again, it's hard to see going back this far, but you're probably talking about $10 to $10.50 as the next spot. Let's take a look at Avalanche real quick and see what we got going on there. Avalanche, again, same kind of dealie here, almost identical to many of these charts, just sideways chop. Again, we've talked about the support here, right around $9.40 to $9.30 on the downside. All right. So again, that just kind of brings it to where we are at this current point where crypto, again, remains unbelievably quiet. It's almost like crypto is waiting for the next shoe to drop, unfortunately. And again, you hate to say that, but ultimately, I think that's what it is. I think the crypto market and investors are almost like frozen, right? It's just like, okay, waiting. When's the next negative headline going to hit crypto? Again, I think the positive you take out from this is that we are now, Bitcoin was at its all-time highs, as were a bunch of these other cryptos. And I was so bearish. And I think you guys can all see that, yes, I still believe Bitcoin has downside, crypto has downside as a whole, but we're now getting into that range where it starts to become more intriguing and more interesting. And I think that's amazing because it's been a long road, a full year now, just over a year of kind of a downward bear market in crypto. And still 5 to 6 months is still a ways to wait for a potential bottom. But in terms of dollars down, we're now getting towards that low pivot, right? Again, if my downside target even of 9,000 or 9,000 and change is tagged, how much is that from here on Bitcoin, right? You're basically trading just above 16,000, so you're only looking at about 7,000 in downside action, maybe 7,500 downside action. Compared to where we were at 69,000 and have fallen here, you're talking about what, like 53,000 drop to here. What's another $7,000 to the downside or 7,500? It's minimal. Now, percentage-wise from here, it's still a fair amount, right? We're still talking, 45% drop in Bitcoin from the current price. But I think, again, if you look at it in the bigger picture, 7,000 can be made up very quickly versus to get back to 65 or 69,000. That's going to take a little time. Once Bitcoin bottoms, honestly, I think you'll see a lot of chop for a little while, but you'll have chops that take us back to 20,000. 20,000 is going to be resistance. It was the former 2017 high, and now that we're below it, that will be resistance as well. Not a ton of resistance, but still resistance. But it still puts us in that perspective of saying, okay, just a snap back to 20,000, that's going to happen a fair amount. In a bear market, even in an extended bear market, you're going to have this sideways chop. One chart I love to show, guys, is EWZ. Now, this EWZ is the Brazilian stock market. Now, the reason I'm showing this is not because I believe that Bitcoin is going to take this long to get back to the all-time highs, which, by the way, hasn't happened for EWZ, the Brazilian stock market. But this, look at this run up, and then look at the crash, and then look at the bounce, right? So if you extrapolate this to Bitcoin, let's say that this is 9,000 down here. I mean, this basically takes us back to, let's say, 45,000. Then you pull back, and then eventually you come back down. Maybe we go lower, maybe we don't, I don't know. But the point is that when you get bounces, even in a long, long bear market, which you could say the Brazilian stock market has been in, there's still lots of money to be made. And that's why, again, for me, it's kind of in a position of saying, okay, let's accumulate, obviously, down in this range, the hodl position, even my swing trade position. I want to add a little bit more, get my average down. And then when we get these type of bounces, even in a longer period before we make new all-time highs, there's lots and lots and lots of money to be made. All right, guys, so just a little clarity on that. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.